We've got a few new picks making the list for this patch as jungle and ADC have a different look. Kha'Zix drops out of the top 3 for jungle with his nerfs and much more as we provide you guys with the best solo carry champions for every single role in 26.5. And remember, if you're learning new tech, broken builds, or macro and wave control strategies from videos like this one, you're already behind. The issue with YouTube is that it takes a while for us to edit and get content out for you guys as fast as possible. That's why whenever our challenger players discover new tech, broken builds, or game-winning strategies, they post it immediately in our new meta updates course, weeks before you'll ever see it on YouTube, Reddit, or TikTok, so you can get ahead of everyone else. For instance, AP Vera's top lane was broken from the very first patch of the season, but the average player didn't discover that until a few weeks later, while SkillCapped subscribers were notified before everyone else. As a SkillCapped subscriber, you're also getting access to our newly updated Essentials courses, covering everything you need to master Season 16, from fundamentals to advanced macro. Or even our Bronze to Diamond series, where we document hard-stuck players using only our content to climb through every rank. And if that wasn't enough already, every single week our challenger players upload 10 full game commentaries breaking down exactly how to carry games on your chosen champion in your elo, explaining every decision in real time. Best of all, you can get access to all this and more completely risk-free, as if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, then you get every penny back. Check out the link in the description below for an exclusive one-time discount completely risk-free today. Back in the top 3 for a second patch in a row, and one of the most consistent top laners you can play is Singed. Singed just scales like an absolute monster in Season 16 because of his massive 4-item core. The mix of damage and tankiness that you end up having makes it so easy to be impactful with Singed in many different ways. You're able to soak a ton of damage in fights while also shredding the enemy squishy's health bars, so he's just a really forgiving champ right now who's super easy to find success with. The build we're talking about consists of rushing Liandry's into Rylai's second and then transitioning into Protoplasm and Jaksho. The thing about Singed is that because everything is point and click within his kit, making an impact in fights is a given. You can't really mess up with Singed, and if you have the movement speed from Ghost and your R, then it's super easy for you to reposition and quickly adjust how aggressive you are in a fight. Singed is so good right now that you don't even need to know how to proxy on him to win games, but if you do figure out how to proxy, then he just becomes the unanimous best top lane champ in the game. In regards to Singed matchups for solo queue, he struggles more into ranged champs, and even though Kayle isn't ranged until 6, it's a champ that most Singed players have a negative win rate against right now, and it's a very common matchup in meta, so Kayle is worth a ban for 26.5. The best top lane tank in the game right now, who honestly doesn't even really play like a tank in a lot of situations, is Ornn. The notion that you can't carry with tanks is just completely wrong, because in today's age of League, a tank like Ornn can quite literally 100 to 0 a squishy ADC with a full combo if he's ahead in the mid game. What's so great about Ornn for this season, and what makes him a cut above all other tanks, is the fact he scales so well with levels. Since your top lane quest provides you with bonus experience, you get to reach your level 13 faster than in previous seasons, and once you get to 13 and beyond, you're able to upgrade items and provide your team with a ton of bonus stats for free. Each upgraded Ornn item provides 1,000 gold worth of stats, so you can almost think of it like providing your teammate with around 3 kills worth of gold. Lane phase is pretty safe with Ornn, as even in more difficult lanes, you can just farm with your Q from range. You just want to make sure you're not dying early on with Ornn because experience is so important for him, so even if you've got to give up a couple of CS in lane but you're able to stay in experience range, it's completely fine. It's going to be champs who have strong extended fight power who play well into Ornn, so Yone and Fiora are 2 matchups that you'll want to try and avoid. A new build that we're seeing becoming a lot more popular on Ornn over the past patch revolves around Protoplasm as a rush, Jaksho second, and Zeke's Convergence third. We uploaded a video way back in 26.2 to our meta updates course talking about how underrated Protoplasm is, and we're finally starting to see a lot more champions taking it now. So back in the top 3, after not being negatively impacted by her 26.4 nerfs at all, is Kayle. Kayle ended up losing a bit of damage on her Q, but it turns out the change didn't really matter, with Kayle only losing 0.5% win rate. It just goes to show how insane Kayle fits in for Season 16 because she loves the role quest reward and she loves her itemization. Just like Ornn, Kayle scales exceptionally well with levels, so bonus experience on quest completion is fantastic for her. Once players discovered how insane Dusk and Dawn is for Kayle, she's become even better with the item slotting in perfectly as a second purchase. You rush Nashers, go Dusk and Dawn second, and then pick up Rabadon's third for the core build. Some of these matchup stat lines for Kayle are just gross right now, as she's winning over 56% of the time into Garen, 55% into Darius, and 54% against Zehen and Gangplank. The one matchup across most elo brackets that Kayle players struggle against right now is Aurelia. Aurelia with her early game kill threat is not something Kayle wants to play into. Kayle can actually win extended fights early on in a lot of other matchups, but Aurelia is really tough to match, so she's a good ban to consider. So a very niche jungler at the moment, but one who's extremely underrated and has been on the rise lately is Shen. Credit goes to Xpedu for this pick, as he's been a huge advocate to champions who can rush Protoplasm Harness. It's a big reason why Nasus jungle is finding so much success right now, and Shen is arguably an even better user. So Protoplasm Harness is the new health item for Season 16 that gives you a total of 600 health, 20 ability Vitality Haste, and a passive that heals you when you drop below 30% health, all for the cost of 2,500 gold. Cheap access to health is great for Shen because his passive E and R all scale off bonus health. After rushing Protoplasm, you build into Unending Despair or Abyssal Mask. So this core for Shen is just super cheap, and you're getting so much healing out of Protoplasm and Unending Despair. What's even more interesting is that for the keystone on Shen jungle, you want Guardian. Guardian is by far the best performing keystone on Shen jungle, as it amplifies his skirmish, while the shield from Guardian has 5% bonus health scaling. Looking at Shen jungle's matchups right now, he's thriving into auto-reliant picks like Viego, Diana, Briar, and Xin Zhao, as Shen W does a phenomenal job at limiting those champions' skirmish potential. Worst performing matchups are not much of a surprise, as AP spell-reliant picks are giving him the most issues, so Lilia is a good ban to consider. So who knows if Shen jungle actually becomes more mainstream in the coming patches, but right now he's looking incredibly underrated and a great champ to spam while he remains relatively unknown. So back in the top 3 for jungle for a second patch in a row is going to be Briar. Briar has been excelling ever since her direct buffs in 26.3, and she's especially strong in the lower elos. Briar is one of those champs that if she gets a lead, then she just stat checks everyone around her. The majority of Briar's damage output is guaranteed, so you're able to be very consistently impactful with the champion in skirmishes. The one mistake you want to try and avoid when playing Briar is fishing for cross-map R plays. The longer you have to throw your R with Briar, the less likely it's going to land, so a lot of the time you actually want to use it when you are relatively close to your opponent. For instance, lane ganking with Briar is incredibly powerful because if you walk up behind your teammate's tower and then throw R from there, it's almost guaranteed to land due to the short distance it has to travel. Because of home guards providing so much movement speed, it's also way more practical to get closer like this, since when you come out of base, you'll be able to walk to your teammate's tower much faster than in previous seasons. Of course, as the game goes later, if a big skirmish breaks out on the opposite side of the map that you're on, then fishing for a cross-map R play is definitely what you want to do, but it's more so in the early game when laning phase is still going on that you want to limit those cross-map Rs and go for more guaranteed ones. A really powerful build for Briar that a lot of players are sleeping on right now consists of taking Endless Hunger as a core item. Endless provides the bonus Omnivamp on takedowns, so combined with the healing coming out of Briar's kit, she can deal a load of damage while being really difficult to take down at the same time. Best bans when picking Briar are going to be meta champs who have strong peel power, where team fighting will become way more difficult for you, so Braum or Lulu are two good options right now. One of the strongest junglers in the game across all elo brackets for 26.5 is going to be Xin Zhao. Xin was buffed in the same patch as Briar, and he's seen a big push back into meta because of it. Xin is a pretty easy champion to pick up and find success with because his kit isn't very mechanically intensive. A lot of Shin's damage is point and click, so within skirmishes, you're going to be very consistently impactful. Early ganks are really strong, and those 2v2 or 3v3 skirmishes are where Shin can really thrive at level 6. Shin's R gives him such a deadly skirmish because he can focus down one target while knocking away the others, which gives him the ability to single out a target really well. You end up getting pretty tanky with Shin, but still do a ton of damage as you rush Sundered Sky, go into Black Cleaver second, and Death's Dance or Sterix third. Similar to Briar, since Xin Zhao needs to be in melee range and up close to be effective, he hates playing into champs with strong peel power, so banning out Braum or Lulu is a good idea if your teammates aren't hovering them. So miraculously avoiding nerfs for another patch and back in the top 3 for mid lane is Ahri. Ahri is hands down the best blind pick mid for solo queue right now, as you can pick her into pretty much anything and at least go even in lane. The buff from 26.3 pushed her over the top, but the champ as a whole excels because of her ability to force the issue and make things happen on her own. Ahri can start fights so easily because of the mobility she has from R, so whether it be dashing in from the flank or just running straight at enemies if you get a lead early on, it's really easy to continue pressuring that advantage. Ahri is one of the best champs in the game at controlling vision around objectives and then punishing enemies for walking in alone. If your macro game is up to par with Ahri and you can be finding picks around objectives before they spawn, then it really lessens the mechanical skill required to play the champ. It's so much easier to land your charm if you are in the fog of war and the enemy just walks into you, whereas trying to hit your E in a straight up 5v5 is a lot more difficult. So posturing around the fog of war and always trying to find pockets where the enemy cannot see you is really key to succeeding with Ahri. To learn more about Ahri, our challenger mid laner Shori is one of the best solo queue Ahri players, and he's got a ton of full game commentaries on our website where he'll show you exactly how to win with the champ. The core build for Ahri is going to consist of a Malignance Rush into Shadowflame second and Rabadon's third, while Electrocute is the best keystone rune. With Mel buffed for this patch and likely to see a big play rate spike, it's a good ban to consider for Ahri, as the range Mel has combined with her Reflect from W makes it harder for Ahri to snowball off of. So fresh off some buffs from 26.4 and joining the top 3 for mid lane in 26.5 is going to be Annie. Annie got 2 buffs last patch. The first was to her Q damage going up by 20 at max rank, and the second was to her E cooldown dropping from 12 seconds at rank 1 down to 10 seconds. This E change especially is really nice for early laning with Annie because she is a champion who really wants to scale into her level 6 without falling too far behind. 2 seconds less on E cooldown is huge for this in specific matchups. For example, Lux E has a 10-second cooldown at rank 1, so now that E is 10 seconds seconds instead of 12, it means whenever Lux throws her E for poke, you're guaranteed to counter with your E shield. In previous patches, Lux had a 2-second window where she could poke you while your E was on cooldown, but not anymore. Overall, the buffs ended up providing Annie with around a 1.5% boost in win rate, which is quite significant. So Annie's more difficult matchups got easier because of the E change, but then she's always been a great pick in a melee mids like Yasuo and Yone, as her point-and-click CC makes it impossible for them to outplay you with mobility. Longer range mids who have strong zone control are who Annie is going to struggle against the most, so banning out Syndra is good value. Core build for Annie revolves around a Malignance Rush into Storm Surge second and Rabadon's third, while Electrocute is the optimal Keystone run. And then still such a criminally underrated mid lane champ who's especially strong if you're in low elo that you should try for 26.5 is Sion. So Sion mid has been rocking a 54% win rate in silver, gold, and plat in the past few patches, and it's for good reason. Season 16 has been great for Sion because he's one of the few mid lane champs who gets to abuse the defensive tier 3 boots upgrade. The upgrade for SkillCapped and Merc Treads is so strong, and it gives Sion an immense amount of tankiness. Sion is one of the most consistent mid lane champs that you can play because of how hard it is to punish him in lane. Even if you are going up against a ranged mid laner, the shield from your W, Doran's shield as your starting item, and second wind in runes allows for you to easily survive the first few levels. Once you survive the first few levels, you then get to start itemizing defensively, and it becomes nearly impossible for traditional mid laners to poke you out. The shove and roam strength of Sion is a huge factor for his success as a mid laner because with Q and W, you just one-shot waves, so it's really easy to just insta-clear waves and then always be on the prowl for roam plays with R. The build to run for Sion mid lane consists of a Hollow Radiance or Sunfire Rush into Titanic Hydra second and Unending Despair third. Titanic is the only damage item you need on Sion, and then you just build defensively from then on out. Champs who have strong, consistent DPS are the only ones who can give Sion a bit of trouble, so banning out Yone is good value if you intend on blind picking Sion. Taking a look at the top 3 for ADC in 26.5, starting us off is going to be a more underrated champ right now, being Senna. So Senna ADC has started gaining more attention over the past patch, and it's with a really interesting new build. It's a super heavy upfront burst setup, as you rush Static Shiv and go Dusk and Dawn second while running Press the Attack for the Keystone rune. So the reason this 2-item core bursts so hard is because when you have Dusk and Dawn and you use Senna Q, you will instantly consume 2 charges of the Shiv passive and apply 2 charges of Press the Attack. So this means that a simple Q into auto combo is going to consume all 3 charges of Shiv and proc Press the Attack. Just to show you a visual of this, we can see in this practice tool clip that if we were hitting a standard ADC in the mid game who has 1500 health and 50 resists, we are dealing 37.4% of their health bar with a very quick combo. So it's a much more forgiving build, as you don't need to be auto weaving immaculately in fights to be effective. Something worth noting as well is that once you have Dusk and Dawn, just using your Q on an enemy is going to provide you a stack of your passive. You don't need to auto attack them after using Q to grab the passive stack, so it just makes stacking Senna's passive way more consistent throughout the mid to late game. Good bans to consider when picking Senna are going to be any dive champ that's picked a lot in meta, so Zed and Ahri are 2 good options right now. A new addition to the ADC solo carry list for 26.5 is going to be Xayah. So Xayah was just buffed last patch, and the changes turned out to be incredibly impactful. Xayah jumped past the majority of ADCs in power, and for the first time in a really long time is a top 3 ADC. Being able to pull Xayah out for a solo queue is just so nice because of her ability to excel into heavy dive comps. Annoying assassins like Zed, Akali, or Echo aren't as much of an issue for Xayah compared to many other ADCs because of the self-peel tool she has with her R. It's going to be longer range that gives Xayah more issues, so banning out an ADC like Caitlyn, who's being picked a ton in meta right now, is a good idea. Itemization for Xayah is really interesting for Season 16 because there are actually 3 different rush items finding lots of success. The standard first item is Essence Reaver, and if you run that every game, then you'll do just fine, but if you really want to optimize, Yuntal or Storm Razor are viable too. The main difference between Yuntal and ER is that Yuntal offers up a ton of attack speed. Because of this, it makes Yuntal more attractive if your support is playing an enchanter, to where you'll need to be auto-attacking more to win out in skirmishes. If you're paired with a melee engaged support, then Essence Reaver makes more sense because of its superior upfront burst potential. As for Storm Razor, it's actually Xayah's highest winning rush item, but not many people are building it, so it's tough to say whether it's actually her best item and everyone's just sleeping on it. The movement speed proc from Storm Razor does feel incredible, and for an ADC like Xayah who lacks a gap closer, getting that proc off in skirmishes to help kite around and reposition can be game changing. Regardless of what item you rush, it's always going to be Flicker Blades as your second purchase, followed by Infinity Edge third. And then to round out the top 3 for ADC in 26.5, we've got Jinx. Even with the nerf she got last patch, Jinx continues to remain one of the best ADCs, as there are few champs who bring as much raw solo carry power as Jinx does to chaotic teamfights. Solo queue is all about chaos, and Jinx's passive has so much value because of that. There's even a new build going around on Jinx that revolves around Hex Optics as a core item, which is giving her even more power. Rushing Hex Optics is performing insanely well on Jinx, as the item got buffed 2 patches in a row and is outclassing everything else. You rush Hex Optics, go into Phantom Dancer second, and Infinity Edge third. Hex Optics into Phantom Dancer is such a cheap 2-item core, and because ADCs gain way more gold this season due to the role quest reward, you're going to hit that spike in pretty much every single game. Being that Jinx's main weakness is the fact that she lacks a gap closer, banning out whichever dive champ is most played in meta is never a bad idea, so Zed or Ahri are two good options right now. Continuing to remain the best enchanter for solo queue and arguably the best support in general for 26.5 is Sona. Sona is such a powerful champion for solo queue in this season because of how insane her 2-item spike is. Echoes of Helia with Whispering Circlet is such a massive 2-item core, and hitting those items provides you with so much healing potential in skirmishes. What's so great about Sona is that even though a ton of her power comes through keeping her carries healthy in fights with her healing, she can actually make plays as well, which gives her so much versatility. The catch power with Sona R is amazing, and it can be used as an engage tool, so if your team is lacking that initiation, you can do it yourself, which is not something many other enchanters have the luxury of being able to do. Matchup-wise for Sona, she wants to avoid playing into heavy engage, as she's still a squishy enchanter, so if a melee engage support gets on top of you, then you're going to get blown up instantly. In this case, always banning whichever engage support is most played in meta is a good idea, and right now it's Thresh or Leona. It's actually getting a little insane as to how long Nami has been a top tier pick for solo queue, as she's back in the top 3 for support once again. If we were to guess, Nami is probably the champ we've had on the solo carry list the most over the past year. She's just so consistently powerful for solo queue and doesn't require very much skill at all to be impactful with. What's so great about Nami is that her skill floor is low, but her skill ceiling is decently high, which is the best of both worlds because you can find immediate success with her, but then the more games you put in, the better she becomes. Imperial Mandate Spike is arguably the strongest 1-item spike for any support champion in the game, as it provides Nami and her ADC with so much all-in threat. Mandate plus Nami E on her carry provides a ton of upfront burst power, so your ability to catch out a target and kill them quickly is incredible. Nami's early laning is insanely powerful with her W start, as the fact it deals damage and heals makes her unbeatable in level 1 trades. You really want to be up and contesting the enemy ADC when they try to last hit, because you should be able to either zone them from farm or poke them to acquire the health advantage early on. A lot of players think that when you're playing an enchanter, you're just there to protect your ADC, but Nami actually wants to be playing more aggro level 1 than a mage or melee support would. In regards to Nami's matchups, hook supports are always going to be the most volatile because all it takes is for one hook to land and you can cost the entire lane, so banning out Thresh or Blitz is good value. Riot's going to be buffing Locket for 26.5, so an already strong melee support is going to be even stronger, as we've got Leona rounding out the top 3. So with Braum nerfed lately, it's given rise to Leona, as she's now at a very similar power level to Braum. Leona is the queen of engage in the support role, as her long range catch power from R gives her one of the best go buttons in the game. Even if you don't land the stun, hitting the slow is pretty easy, and often enough for you to then close the gap and follow with your E, so Leona's ability to punish mispositioning is better than the majority of supports. The only major weakness to Leona is the fact that strong peel supports can ruin her engage plans, so banning out Morgana or Melio is good value. Melio is especially annoying to play into because of the fact his R has the cleanse, so even if you land your R on a target, then it often doesn't matter if Melio is around. For Leona's build, you're going to take Bloodsong for the item upgrade, while Bandle Pipes and Locket are core. Don't sleep on Protoplasm Harness as a later game item on Leona. Protoplasm's heal scales off your bonus resists, and because Leona's W and Aftershock will provide her with bonus resist, the value of Protoplasm is higher on her than most other melee supports. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's gonna wrap everything up for the 26.5 edition of the best solo carries. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.